Thank you. Thank you very much. That was kind. Dr. Powell, thank you for your leadership. As I was listening to you and reflecting back on our working together, it made me think of John Paul Jones, the founder of the Navy, who had the great quote that if you're going to sail with me, you better sail fast because I intend to go into harm's way. Something like that anyway. But he's ambitious in terms of higher education. Arkansas, that's exactly the kind of leader that I want there. Somebody who's going to look at things afresh, look at things as to how to move Arkansas forward and to build consensus. So grab your seatbelts as he makes his presentation a little bit later, but I know that he'll look forward to working with you closely. And I wanted to start off by recognizing the Higher Education Coordinating Council. Chairman Crafton and your team has done an outstanding job working with the governor's office, supporting higher ed, and I wanted to recognize those that are in this room. All of the leadership that is here, I want to say thank you. It has been a distinct privilege of mine to be on your campuses, to talk to you in the offices, talk about your needs, see your innovation, and really to see how you respond to leadership. And that's thrilling to me, feel a responsibility there, but thank you for your commitment to working together to move Arkansas forward. And whether it is in economic development or whether it's responding to the needs of industry, you have been there. The cry for increased efficiency, when I talk about that, I recognize what you all are doing and that you're having efforts to tighten the belt. And so I applaud you for that. I applaud you for rethinking the delivery of higher education services. I, as you know, travel a little bit for economic development, and it took me to Silicon Valley. And as I go into the high-tech industries, they do not have the workplaces of the past. They have the workplaces of the future. And it's actually a pretty good picture of, to me, how you have to rethink higher education. And absolutely, I love the classics. I love the arts. I love the breadth of higher academic education. And we want to have the traditional educational past, but at the same time, we have to look at how we deliver higher education in today's world. You are doing that, and I applaud you for it. You have more creative minds. You have a greater willingness to change than the public gives you credit for, and I applaud you for that. But we continue to have challenges here in the state of Arkansas. You know the challenges more than me, but it's important for me to recite these statistics so that you understand that I know them. And it puts us on the same page. Whenever we look at the fact that only 43% of Arkansans hold a post-high school degree or technical certificate. Whenever you look at the breakdown, 56% hold a high school diploma. That is 850,000 Arkansans hold a high school diploma or less. 15% hold a technical certificate or less than 2 years of college. 7% hold an associate's degree. 13% hold a bachelor's degree. And 7% hold a master's degree or higher. And if you take those statistics and apply it to the workforce needs that have been documented for our future, based upon those projected workforce needs, 236,000 adult Arkansans will lack the proper education credentials to be employed. That is the challenge that we face. This is a jobs gap. It is an economic development challenge, and this gap is holding Arkansas back. We need to reverse that. We need to make that as our top challenge. Consider the average salary of individuals at different attainment levels. If you have a high school diploma, on the average you can count on $13,000 a year. Now thank goodness there are exceptions to that. That people get out and are entrepreneurs and there are exceptions to it, but that is the average. Technical certificates, you can double it just by having a technical certificate at $26,000. average income. If you move to a bachelor's degree, it should be higher, but it's $36,000. But that is extraordinary. Just getting a technical certificate, you will double your pay. And so we need to focus in Arkansas on attainment. Attainment, whether it is a technical certificate, whether it is a 2-year associate degree, or whether it is a 4-year degree or higher. We need to focus on the attainment credentials of Arkansans so that they can meet and fulfill the job requirements of the future. And so the goals, in my judgment, should be to raise completion and graduation rates of colleges and universities by 10%. Whereas it's 43% of Arkansans hold a post-high school degree, let's raise that to 53%. Let's increase the enrollment of adults ages 25 through 54. This is important. They're an underserved population. They're the ones that have missed out on higher education or the technical certificate, but they're still in the age group that they can go back and attain that. And they're a challenging population to motivate back into the education stream, but this should be a goal to increase their enrollment in higher education, in technical schools and 2-year colleges. And then we need to raise the attainment rates for underserved student groups to equal that of other students. Now, let me elaborate and talk about how we get there. First of all, it's about communication and inspiration. You do that every day. You focus your public and your sphere of influence, move ahead, get that degree, get that technical certificate, go back and get your higher education. It's also the responsibility of the government and our agencies of government to focus our efforts as a state, and we're doing that in terms of work training requirements. But one of the things that we're talking about in the expansion of Medicaid, I made a presentation to our healthcare task force that's being legislatively led, and I outlined 7 different elements that they need to consider as to the direction that we need to go, and one of those elements is a requirement for work training referral. So that if you go into the Department of Human Services to have your expanded health care or be on Medicaid, then if you are unemployed or underemployed, you're automatically referred over to the Department of Workforce Services to enroll in enhanced workforce training. And that way we are tying that objective, its focus as a government on the objective that you are working on day in and day out. To be specific though, we need to do a couple things that I'll offer to you. These are again things that you're working on. We need to continue to focus. One is to improve college affordability. And part of that is shortening the time to a degree. I spoke at Arkansas Tech University and had an incredible freshman convocation, which was the first one that I attended. And I asked the question, as over 1,000 freshmen were in the audience there, bright-eyed, some of them not too bright-eyed actually. They looked like they had enjoyed the night before, but they're ready for the school year. They're ready to be inspired. But I asked them the question, how many of you want a degree within 4 years? Guess what? Everybody raised their hand. And then I gave them the news that the odds are against you. The odds are against you, and most likely if you attain a degree, it'll be more like 6 years, and there's going to be challenges that they face. And I know that they're going to be able to make that and achieve that, but it's a challenge. And statistically, we're not graduating those that we need to within the time frame that we should. So we need to shorten the time to a degree. Part of that is concurrent credit programs. You all are working on those. I applaud you for that. We need more of those, so that when that high school student comes out, they understand they can go to college because they've already proven it. They've got courses under their belt. They've got the hours toward college graduation under their belt. Concurrent credit programs. We need to reduce the number of students who take remedial courses. Last fall, 41% of Arkansas students enrolled at least one remedial course. We have to identify the students who have challenges and don't leave them without help. The good news, of course, is that the remedial rates have fallen each year in Arkansas since 2010. So good work, everybody in this room. We need to continue to reduce those remedial rates. We need to continue to improve the efficiency of higher education. In other words, be creative, reduce overhead, make sure you're concentrating on efficiency. A recent study shows a dramatic shift from faculty to administrative staff over a 12-year period. I hope that's not true in your institution. One of the mottos of my administration for our personal office and in the larger agencies of government is that small things matter. We've tried to demonstrate this in the consolidation of some agencies into others, eliminating some positions, making sure that when it's $1 to $2 million, we talk about that in terms of what that means over the course of 5 years. Small things matter. And so do you have an efficiency task force at work in your institution? I'm sure you do. If you don't, please sign it up. We need you looking every day at efficiency. Are you most efficiently using your classroom and your building spaces? Are you counseling and training your counselors to talk to students and encourage them to work and not encourage debt? I had the privilege of being at the College of the Washitas just the other day down in Malvern, and I talked to 2 students there, and I asked them both, are you going to be able to get out of here without debt? And they said they are working and they're going to get out without debt. That's the kind of encouragement I want to provide them. And also, I asked them about their taking advantage of leadership skills opportunity. I told them the story that when I was in college, I learned my leadership skills. If I have any, I learned them in college. And it was not in the academic classroom. It was not on the athletic field. It was in the gym on the cleanup crew. I was cleanup crew chief. And so I learned the fundamentals of encouraging others in work. I learned the principle of inspection of the workplace, following up and inspecting on details. I learned the importance of supply chain management. Make sure the workers in the field have what they need. I learned that on the cleanup crew in college, and our students need to be encouraged to work and not incur debt. I know that there's debt will be incurred, but I hope you're counseling them to make sure that they need to look at all their options to be frugal in terms of their management of their finances. Secondly, we need to improve college readiness of students. Now, that's going to be a simple statement that I make because I'm asking Commissioner Key of the Department of Education to make this his priority. You are left with those that might need remedial work. You have students that come from high schools that might not be college ready. And so that's something we need to work on as a state to make your job easier, to make sure that they can graduate on time and without having to go through the remedial courses. But that will be a focus that we have throughout the state. Thirdly, we need to concentrate our efforts on adults and underserved populations. As you know, African American and Hispanic students in Arkansas attend, persist, and complete higher education at lower rates than other races. The Lumina Foundation reports the degree attainment rates as for Caucasians 31%, African Americans 21%, and Hispanic 13%. Our goal should be to raise the college going rate and degree attainment rate of underserved minority groups. My goal is to increase the attainment rate by 10% as compared to other races. We need your help, leadership, and guidance to accomplish those objectives. When it comes to adults, I mentioned the population that thinks education has passed them by. We need to have them reevaluate that and to re-engage in education. We need them to recognize the need and we need to tailor the programs to fit the needs of non-traditional students. You're doing that through online courses, making sure that your courses are offered at a time that fits the need of those non-traditional students. Continue to do that. And then finally, we need to direct state resources toward achievement of these goals. There's two ways that, and first of all, let me just recognize that you like state funding, but you also know that it's not enough and you've got to have a lot of other funding sources. And I recognize your level of independence constitutionally. I recognize how you've had to be creative in having different funding streams for your institutions, and I applaud that. And we in state government are just a piece of the puzzle. But it is an important one, and I like to think I've got your flank. In the last legislative session, we passed a budget while many other states were declining in state contribution to higher education. We did not have it decline in Arkansas, and we maintained our commitment. I want you to know that I want to continue to have your back when it comes to the state's portion. And there's two ways that the state contributes. One is the institutional funding, and the second way is the scholarship funding. In terms of the institutional funding, we have an outdated funding formula for higher education. It needs to be reevaluated. In my view, a formula should be based upon base funding. It should be based upon performance funding and performance measures. It should be based upon incentive funding to encourage the priorities that the state has that we've identified, and then innovation funding for those new initiatives that merit some funding that we can all learn and benefit from. And so based upon my view that we need to take another look at our funding formula in Arkansas, I'm asking Dr. Powell to work with you to recommend to the General Assembly a new and updated funding formula for higher education that will meet our state goals. I did not expect a round of applause at that point, but that's all right. You all know the challenge ahead, and I fully expect and understand that you'll work with Dr. Powell on that. The second area is the scholarship funding, which has been a challenge because we've had high expectations on scholarship funding. It has been lowered. Hopefully it's flattened out, and actually hopefully that will increase down the road. State scholarship funding, in my judgment, should be aligned so that at least a portion of the scholarship funds should be directed for targeted populations. If we as a state, believe our goal should be increasing the participation in education by the adult population, if we believe we should be encouraging technical degree attainments, if we believe we should be increasing the attainment of minority populations, then our funding should align with that as well. And that should not exempt and exclude our scholarships funding. And so I hope that we can take a look at that so that we can target technical degrees, non-traditional students, and minority students as well. And I recognize the challenge and the political difficulty, but perhaps if you have your base funding for all the scholarships patterned after the way that we do it now, but then if we have the opportunity down the road to increase the scholarship funding, then take a % of that for our targeted populations. That way we're covering the needs now, but we're developing the opportunity for the future to fund those targeted populations that are important for the state. And so I hope that you will listen to Dr. Powell. I hope that you'll give us the feedback that we fully expect from you, that you'll work with us on achieving those objectives and helping us to refine those objectives. These are ideas and opportunities and goals that we're putting out that obviously need to be refined based upon your ideas and your observations. Let me conclude by saying, as you know, My focus in Arkansas as governor is economic growth, because I believe you can pay your teachers more if we grow our economy. We can build more highways if we grow our economy. We can fund more scholarships if we grow our economy. We can do so much more as a state when we grow economically and in job creation, and that is my focus. Obviously, we cannot achieve those goals without being successful in secondary education, post-secondary education. So what you do is critical to that effort. And I applaud your participation in my highway funding task force that's looking at new ways to fund our highways in Arkansas. And I know that we cannot build the consensus needed without the participation and support of higher education. I expect you to watch after the general revenue dollars, but I also expect you to help us to reach a consensus that will help us to grow economically through the infrastructure that we need. We need to have a competitive tax rate. I appreciate your support and understanding of lowering the tax rate for the middle income this last session. They'll help us to be more competitive. We need to emphasize technology, and you have supported my initiative in computer coding. While it's focused on the high school level, I've enjoyed our colleges that have said, we're going to elevate our game. We're going to understand that the students coming out of high school are going to have a greater background in computer science. So we're going to elevate our curriculum so that we can be responsive and even enhance their educational opportunities in the STEM fields. Job skill training. You have responded in that arena, which is a priority for us. And please understand that every day I'm working, calling CEOs, saying, bring your business to Arkansas. It's a great place to do business, to raise your family, and to get the education that this generation and the next needs. Thank you for what you do. You're making Arkansas a greater state.